All right, guys, today on Request, we're going to dig into Lake Charles and townhomes around Port St. Lucie. Stay tuned.
You better get fired up.
Hey, guys, happy Wednesday. We're here every single Wednesday at 11 o'clock where we go through the Florida Treasure Coast Market Update and talk about information regarding the real estate market here on the Treasure Coast. So today I've been asked to look into two different things. Number one, Lake Charles, specifically townhomes in Lake Charles, and then secondly, townhomes in Port St. Lucie as a whole. So we're going to dig in and just look at some inventory, some median prices, maybe compare median prices to old median prices so we can see what that movement looks like. I focus on single family homes quite a bit, so it'll be nice to do something a little bit differently here. All right, so I'm going to share my screen, and then what we're going to bring up is the MLS. It's a multiple listing service. You should be able to see right now. This is what realtors use as a tool to put all their listings into, and then this site feeds to what's called IDX websites, right? Sites like Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, Realtor, eXp Realty, Keller Williams, Remax, you name it. If they're pulling listings from an outside source, this is that outside base source, right? This is what all the realtors are using. So let's go to Lake Charles first. We're going to go Port St. Lucie, and I'm going to pull these inventory numbers just like I would anything else. And we'll look at actives. We're going to go to subdivision, Lake Charles. And we got 23 actives, okay? But those are all properties, and we're going to go with all properties. Then I'm going to switch over to townhomes so we can see the difference. So we have, I better get my rating stick out here, 23 actives. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the sales in the last 6 months. So I'm going to go closed, and I'm going to come down here to 5/5 of 2025. How many sales do we have? We have 34. Okay, so that's a good thing. Let's pull our trusty calculator up here. So we're selling, I'm sorry, let me write this down. 34 sold. We're selling 34 every 6 months, and we have 23 active. Okay, so we're going to take 23 divided by 34 times 6 months. That's just a hair over. It's 4.06 months of inventory. I always say 3 to 4 months is kind of a neutral market. Anything under 3 is a seller's market. Anything over 4 starts to become a buyer's market. So we've got a very, well, we've got a neutral market, but it's just getting into the territory where it may be considered a buyer's market. Not a strong buyer's market at all. Very good market. Compared to a lot of other markets I'm seeing, I think this is a very good market. Now, let's break it down. Let's come back to, we'll look at closed. Let's look at townhomes. Type townhouse. 0. I'm thinking something, but I'm not going to say it. 1. There's 1 townhouse for sale. I didn't even know there were townhouses in Lake Charles, to be honest. So that's not a great stat because we've got such little data. And I honestly do not recall townhouses in here. That says 4 in the last 5 years. So I guess, so there just aren't a lot. That's really not the greatest data. It's not something that I would probably base decisions off of, pricing strategies off of. But let's look at townhouses as a whole in Port St. Lucie. Port St. Lucie. And we're going to go active townhouse. So active townhouse, you can see right up here, we've got 74 that are for sale. Okay. And now we're going to look at sold in the last 6 months. 5/5/2025. And we've got 72. I don't even need to pull out my calculator to know that's almost exactly 6 months of sales. Okay, so we got almost exactly 6 months of inventory, not sales, on the market, meaning it's a buyer's market, right? Is it a super strong buyer's market? No, there's some communities here I can look up, some price points I can look up where we've got 12, 14, 16, 18 months of inventory. That's a buyer's market. 6 months is a buyer's market, but it's not crazy. Are you going to be able to come in on a $275,000 townhome and get it at 200? No, that's probably not going to happen, right? But can you come in at 275 and get it for 265, and you've got nobody else you're competing with, and maybe get some terms that you want. Yeah, that's not that crazy. If you submit that type of offer on 2-3 townhouses, you're going to get 1 or 2 of those offers accepted. That's pretty normal in this market. So now what I want to do is I want to look at the median price point, and then we're going to compare it to the same time frame from a year ago. So we're looking 5/5 of 2025 to 11/5 of, I know it says 2035, but basically there's just no data past today. So that's 2025. And we're going to look at, we've got closed, right? Yep, we got closed. We're going to look at the median price point. So how many are there? We've got, blah, 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 that's a drum roll, 72. So 36 and 37, the average of those two is going to be our median. 36 and 37. So we got 315 and 315. Guess what? I'm pretty good at math. That average is 315, my friends. So right now, the median price point for a townhouse in Port St. Lucie over the last 6 months is 315. Now let's go back and see. Everybody's saying these prices are dropping. I would guess it's down, but I do not know. Let's take a look at it. A year ago, we had 84 sales, right? So that right there, 84 sales versus 72, that's 12 more. 12 divided by 84. That means we've got a 14% drop in the amount of townhome sales last year during that 6-month period versus this year at this 6-month period. Okay. But now we're going to look into those 84. The median is going to be the average between 42 and 43. So let's come in. Here's our 84. We've got them in order of price. 42 and 43. Yeah, you're at 336,220. So 336,220 minus 315 divided by 336,220. That is a 6.3% reduction in prices on townhomes when you're looking at median prices this last 6 months versus that same 6 months a year ago. A 6.3% reduction. Let's see what that looks like when it comes to homes. Single-family homes in Port St. Lucie. We're going to do the same thing. This will be the last thing we do. So Port St. Lucie, active type. We're only going to do 30 days because there's going to be a lot more home. Yeah, see 1912. And I don't want to go through and look up that median number. It's going to be quite a bit. So we'll look at let's go 11.5. Let's go back to 10.5. Oops. 2025. So in the last month, 365 sales, that's 183 is going to be the median. So let's come in and look at the median of current single family home sales. Are these solds? I just want to make sure these are solds. Yeah, they're solds. Okay. So 365, that's 183. Put these in order of price. And let's come down and find number 183. I'm looking at this left column over here. It just puts them in order. So 183 is right bink here. So in the last 30 days, the median single family home sales price in Port St. Lucie is $410,724. Now let's do that same search, but we're going to look at that period 10.5 to 11.5, but of 2024. And let's see what happens. All right, so now we've got 347 sales. So you can see we had 365 this year, right? And I'll be honest with you, this is something you guys aren't going to know. There are sales that happen in the last 1, 2, 3 days that realtors just haven't input yet. So if you wait 2, 3, 4 weeks and you go back and look at this 30-day span, this recent one, it's not going to be 365. It's probably going to be 370, 375 is going to be the amount of sales that we have. It's going to go up. But just looking at 365 versus, I think it was 347, 365 minus 347 is 18 divided by 347. We've got 5.2% more sales by numbers this month than we had that month last year. So sales have actually gone up 5.2%, where with townhouses, they've gone down over 6%. So now let's go look at the sales prices. Okay, so we're looking a year ago. right? We're at 410, 724 right now. What do we have? 347. Is that what it was? Yeah, 347. So the median's going to be 150, 160, 174. So let's come down to the 174th property. I don't know what to expect here. I bet it's very similar. 425. So it has come down 50. It's going to be about 3.5%. 425 minus 410, 724 divided by 425. You're looking at a 3.36% reduction in prices on single family homes. Not massive, but we're certainly seeing it. So when people say, hey, we're seeing these numbers come down, it's absolutely true. All right. Now, I will tell you that those numbers go up and down, and 410 right now is kind of at the lower end. I have seen it as high as 425, 430 in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So, I mean, I could check this next week and maybe it'll say that we're actually up or we're neutral. But those are interesting numbers to kind of look at. I do think townhomes are being hit harder than single family homes when it comes to pricing. Why do I think that? And I think condos are even worse. I think that that's true for one major reason. You know, people will say, well, who wants to live in a townhome or a condo? You got shared walls. Great, but that's not apples to apples because you had shared walls a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and you still have shared walls. So that doesn't in any way impact people's decision to buy a townhouse or a condo, right? We need something different. And the thing that I think is different is, first of all, rates have gone up and prices have gone up. Right? Home prices have gone up. Because those two things have gone up, what you're going to have, let me get out of here. Because those two things have gone up, you've got people with roughly the same amount of income saying, hey, I don't really care if I pay $100,000 for a home or $1 million a home. What I truly care about, this is most people, is what that monthly payment is. It's the same with cars. That's why car salesmen are not focused on the price they sell it to you for. They're focused on getting you to agree to a monthly payment, and most people will, right? That's the number you're truly focused on. What can I afford every single month? That's what I'm going to agree to. Well, because people are focused on that, and because prices have gone up, and because rates have gone up, which increases your monthly payment, people are price sensitive, and they're saying, hey, one way to get my prices down, I can't just manipulate my insurance down, and I can't get my principal and interest down because rates have gone up, prices have gone up. I don't want to lower my standards, right? I still want the same nice house. So the only way to do that and still control the numbers somewhat, or at least this is perceived to be the answer for a lot of people, is let's get out of an HOA and go live in an area where there is no HOA. So I'm seeing roughly 70, 80% of my customers 5 years ago were asking to be in these beautiful, I love HOAs, beautifully manicured. They look fantastic. You've got neighbors that have to look good because you've got HOA rules. I love it. A lot of people don't. I get it. But 70, 80% of people 5 years ago were asking for it. Now, 70, 80% of the people that I'm encountering are saying, get me out of these HOAs. And it's not that they don't like the HOA. It's that they don't want the attached fee. Well, with single family homes, you can find a home in an HOA. You can find a home outside of an HOA. When it comes to townhomes and condos, they are all inside HOAs, right? So even though single family homes in HOAs are being hit, townhomes and condos are all inside HOAs. They're getting 100% hit. So it's a little bit different. In addition to that, with the new law that came out because of the building that came down south, I think it was in Miami, right? They came out with a new law that said if you've got a 3-story or higher condo in South Florida, so close to the beach, you don't have a choice. You've got to get a reserve study, and you've got to look at whatever they're saying you're going to have to save for all those expenses, and you've got to put your HOA fee at that amount to save for those. So we're seeing HOA fees go from $300, $400, $500 a month to $1,500, $1,800, $2,000 a month. It's crazy, and this has been going on since January, so it's almost a year now, right? We're seeing it. I've got a listing right now that's got something like that. It's a 1-bed, 1-bath, and it's like $900 and some a month. Prices plummeted. The ability to sell it, even if you drop your price, has plummeted, right? It's tougher. So that's been really challenging as well. So when you look at all of that, And you might say, well, Joe, I'm not in a 3+ story condo. I'm in a townhouse, or I'm in a 1 or 2 story condo. I got it. But what's happening is HOA boards are starting to see that that is the trend for those particular properties. And they're saying, well, why wouldn't we take it on too? Right. And I'm going to argue this because we had this in our HOA as well. And I sided with doing it. I said, we've got to raise the fees, in my opinion, because we've got people at these meetings saying, I can't afford to live here if you raise the fees. Okay, if you can't afford to live here if we raise the fees to meet the expected expenses, then you're not going to be able to afford to live here, period. Because that expense is coming whether we save up for it or not, right? Via the HOA fee. So if you can't afford it now, that roof repair, that road repair, that paint job that's needed, whatever it is that's needed, when it happens and we've got to charge everybody with an assessment, you're telling us you're not going to be able to afford it. Well, if you can't afford it, then why go through the pain of waiting? Get out of here. Sell your place while you can. Take that money, get into something you can afford so that you don't have these assessments coming up that are going to kill you. And HOA fee is the same every single month. Every single month it's the same. And if you have appropriately calculated your expenses for the future, right, in that reserve study, it's a third-party company that does it. And if you set your HOA fees to match it, in theory, you're not going to have any assessments. Now, that's not going to be true. You're still going to have mistakes, and maybe the expenses were calculated low, or whatever it is. But those assessments are going to be way lower and way less often, which is great. Because now I owe X amount of dollars every single month. It might be painful, but I know what it is, and I can plan for it. I can budget for it. When you get an assessment, it is not planned for. It's a surprise. And it's not a few $100. It's usually thousands of bucks. So now you got a way bigger bill, and it's a surprise. So in my opinion, I think it makes more sense to raise the fees, decrease the opportunity for an assessment, maybe to zero if we do it right, and decrease the odds of a surprise popping up. I think that makes sense. I understand the perspective of I can't afford it. But my response to that, if it was my family, I would say, well, then, honey, we can't afford to live here because that assessment's coming up maybe in 6 months, maybe in 6 years, and we're not going to be able to afford it. We need to get out of here. We need to sell and buy something we can afford. And that's understandable too. And it is sad and it is frustrating. But at the end of the day, everything's going up, right? On our board, I can tell you our irrigation's up, our landscaping's up. The cost to cut our trees, trim our trees, has gone up. Our management costs have gone up. Insurance, man, there was a year, 2-3 years ago where it doubled. It was crazy. So that has gone up. Pest control has gone up. Every single thing that we provide as an amenity, even the repairs, right? When you look at the hourly repairs for electrical, or a handyman, or the guy who does the pool, or any of that stuff, that's gone up. And it's fair, in my opinion, that it's gone up because inflation's gone through the roof. So that pool guy, that electrician, that handyman, they all have to pay more for eggs and gas and everything else, just like the rest of us. The way that they do that is they raise their fees. So it makes sense. It's frustrating. It's not fun, but it's logical and it makes sense. So for all of those reasons, I know I'm going down a rabbit hole here. That's why I believe, or at least I think that's the biggest contributing factor to townhomes and condos getting hit harder than single family homes. And I bet you if I was to break it down into single family homes in HOAs versus single family homes outside of HOAs, I haven't looked up this data, but I'd be willing to bet that those in HOAs have been hit harder than those outside of HOAs for that very same reason. Maybe that's a video we'll do next week. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. If you've got any questions, comments, or different theories, I'd love to see them in the comments, or you can always send me a private message through a DM. If you've got things you'd like me to look up, just like this week that I did for someone else, feel free to send that in a private DM or put it in the comments, and we'll be happy to do it. Guys, have a great rest of your Wednesday. Take care.